Okay guys, this is a little bit different than my normal videos. This isn't a vlog, this is my testimony. So, when I was about 5, I began to feel a stirring in my spirit, and I asked my grandpa how to accept Jesus as my Savior before church on a Sunday. We sat and talked, and he made sure I understood, and then we prayed together. And from like that point, my Grandma Jackie and my Grandpa Clyde and my Grandma Pierce, they had all taught me how to pray for people, how to lay hands on someone and pray for them, how to pray for healing. That was like very, like I was taught very much the power of healing, or prayer, not the power of healing, but the power of prayer, and the fact that it can bring healing. When I was 7, I was baptized, and my favorite thing to do at my grandparents' house was to play church. I enjoyed, at that time in my life, I really enjoyed serving. My grandparents helped with the ministry, and I liked to go and help get things together for that, and I liked to preach or teach, whatever. I like to talk to people about God. That was my favorite thing to do. I liked listening to worship music with my grandma. That was always what we did together. So even like that young, I was already doing, like, I was serving, and I was just passionate about it. Like, it was my favorite thing to do. And as I got a little older, I got invited to a different church. Our family was switching churches, and my friend invited me to the Baptist church for GAs. We were in Girl Scouts together, so she invited me to GAs, and I started going to GAs. And from GAs, I started going to Carolers, which was the church children's choir. And so then my parents started going to church with me, and so we all started attending the Baptist church, and I just continued doing all those things, being involved in stuff. As I got a little older, I joined the youth group. I did helped with VBSs, and was in ACT-Teens. I did all those things. And in September of 2004, my dad had started coughing up blood, and so we convinced him to go to the ER. And when we convinced him to go, a little while after that, we found out that he had lung cancer. And so at that time, they had only given him a year to live. And but I continued. I was still very involved in the church. I continued doing youth trips, singing in the youth choir, serving. I went to National ACT-Teens Conference, and I knew that God was calling me to serve. I started looking at colleges during this time too, and so I was like looking at Union University and all of that, and I had really big plans to do what God called me to do. But in 2005, in December of 2005, my dad passed away. And at the time, I didn't realize how, I really tried to be strong. I tried to hold it together. And I thought I had everything together. I thought I had a grip on things. And I really didn't. I had spent the whole year that my dad was sick, a little over a year, asking God to heal my dad, and just hoping that my will was God's will. And now I know differently than I did then. I'll get to that in a minute. But anyway, so I didn't realize how much I blamed God during this time for my dad's death. I didn't realize how mad I was at God and how much unforgiveness I had towards God for not saving my dad. But I became very depressed the summer after my dad died, and reclusive. I stayed home. I spent all my time on the internet. I looked to people online to find fullness and to find meaning for my life. I looked to guys to find my worth. It was very unhealthy, and I wanted attention. It was attention seeking, and I needed validation all the time, and it was just very, very unhealthy. And the next school year, so my junior year and my senior years both, I missed a lot of school. I didn't care about my grades anymore. I was just so depressed. I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be around people. I didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to stay home and recluse and not be around people. I stopped going to church, and I stopped picking up my Bible or praying. Like, I just completely gave up on all of that. The more I did that stuff, the more my depression and anxiety got worse. And I was just really acting out of character. I was not my normal self anymore, and I just really hurt. And I attempted a few times between 2007, when I went to baccalaureate, and to the Sunday service before the Sunday of baccalaureate. That was the last time I'd attended, or that was the first time I'd attended church since my junior year, I think, or my sophomore year. I don't remember, but I really was not attending church. I know that I was very not in the church at all. I didn't go back to church for several years, regularly, but I had attempted a few times to go back to church, and just wasn't in a place to be in church. In October of 2010, I worked at a gas station, and I had met a guy, and I thought he was a friend. I actually didn't see him as more than a friend. I just saw him as a friend, and we were supposed to hang out, and instead of hanging out, I was sexually assaulted. And right after that, I attempted to go back to church. I was still hurting from losing my dad, though I wouldn't have admitted it then, and I couldn't understand why God would let these things happen to me, like losing my dad. And then I felt like I lost a lot of friends after my dad died, and then the assault, and I just felt like I was broken beyond repair. I felt like I was dirty and unclean and not worthy of being at church anymore, and I just felt really lost. So during that time, after that, I spent time looking into other religions. I looked at Buddhism and Wicca, Hinduism, and any other thing that I could find that was New Agey that could fill that void. I was just trying to find healing for myself without looking to where I needed to look. And never did I ever really not believe in God. I always believed in God, but I was just so mad. And I wouldn't have admitted it. It's taken all this time for me, almost 15 years, for me to admit how I was angry at God, and that I was just so confused and upset and hurt that the thing that I was taught just didn't work. I had been taught that you could pray for someone and that healing would come, and I prayed for my dad, and the healing didn't come. And it took me a while, up until like a week ago, I've admitted that I was angry with God and that I was angry because I didn't feel like He listened to me whenever He healed, but it just really, God really pressed on me last week that, like, I asked for healing and my dad got healing. The healing that I wanted was not the healing that was what was needed for my dad. My dad didn't need earthly healing. It was my dad's time. I got what I asked for. He got healing, and he got the ultimate healing, and that's like a tough pill to swallow, I guess, whenever you are in it. And so now, like, being able to look back and be like, okay, I did get what I prayed for, and I was just being crazy, for a lack of a better word, and not, not trusting the situation. I definitely lacked trust in that situation. Anyway, I went back to church in early 2017, and I was ready to recommit. I had been so deep in depression and anxiety that I really couldn't see the light, but at that time I was just still so concerned with what other people thought about me and what other people wanted, and making other people happy, that I gave up going to church, and in turn giving up going to church, I completely gave up reading my Bible and studying and listening to worship music. I just gave it all up because I gave up going to church, because I think that, like, somewhere I had it twisted that, like, church was necessary for a relationship with God, which church is important, but, like, I could have still had a relationship with God without going to church. But I had people in my life who did not like the changes in me when I went to church and when I was getting close to God. So I just gave it up again. The following year, in May of 2018, God gave me a big wake-up call. And the very, very beginning of that year, I was still been working at the gas station. Right before I quit the gas station, I was very much suicidal. I was very unhappy. I needed to. The places that I looked for fullness were not fulfilling, obviously, because they weren't God. So they weren't going to fill a void. And I was depressed, and I was angry, and I was hurt, and things were not going like I thought they should at work, and I was just ready. I didn't like being at home. I didn't like being at work, and I had alienated myself from all of my friends, for the most part, and so I was just very, very depressed and in a very dark place. I switched jobs, and that helped a little bit, but I still was not as happy as I could have been. And so in May, I had a wake-up call, and so, like, I had started reading my Bible again and listening to worship music and praying, but I hadn't started going back to church yet. And about the second week of May, my best friend that I hadn't talked to in a year sent me a message on Facebook to let me know that the pastor that baptized us when I was baptized the second time, had passed away. And so she and I went to the visitation together. We met at the visitation, and so me and her were able to talk, and started spending time together again. Because of her, I was able to see the power of prayer and healing again. And that summer she invited me to go with the singles group at the church she was attending at the time. And so I went with them to a concert, and I ended up joining the singles group. So I went from like having one friend to having several friends. I started making friends and doing things. I went back to church and got involved in things. I did VBS, and I just was involved and all of that. And then hold on. Yeah. Thank you. Then in the fall, I joined the church choir, and I was in the choir for the Christmas cantata for the first time, which was really special because my dad was in the choir, so I got to do that. And so that was in fall and winter of 2018. The beginning of 2019, I went to a Bible study, and I came home, and my house had been broken into, and I was super scared to be by myself for a while. The very next week, as we had done Girl Scout cookies in the morning, and the next week, like the very, very next week, the very next Thursday, while we were doing Girl Scout cookies, I was having a harder time than normal breathing, and it hurt when I breathed. It was taking breaths in, and so throughout the day it got worse and worse. And by the afternoon, as I was sitting with my friends drinking coffee, I was like, if it's not better by tomorrow, I'm just going to go to the walk-in. It's not that big of a deal. Just don't want to miss work, and there's not going to be anybody to cover me. And so I was like, it'll be okay. And then it got to the point that the pain was so bad that I like really didn't even want to stand. It hurt so bad. And so my friend Krista took me to the ER. And when I got to the ER, they ran some tests, and they told me that I had blood clots in both of my lungs, but the ones in my left lung were so bad that it had started to kill tissue. I've never had to stay in the hospital in my whole entire life. I'm not a sick person or anything like that. So that was my first hospital stay. And I had a struggle with doubt there for a little while, because God had been so good, and then all of a sudden all this bad stuff started happening, and I was like, I don't understand. I'm going to church, and I'm reading my Bible, and I'm praying, and I'm listening, and I'm trying to be obedient, and I'm trying to have this relationship, and I don't understand. And my mom was the one who told me I needed to pray about it and to just like really not listen to those thoughts. And I appreciate that so much. So after that, I was really scared that I wasn't going to get to sing for Easter, for the Easter cantata. I was terrified that like I wasn't going to be able to sing anymore, and I pushed myself to get my lung strength back enough that I was able to go sing, and I sang with the church for the Easter cantata. And I need to mention that during this time I met some other really good friends. So I between October of 2018 and like Easter of 2019, I had become friends with my friend Jerry and my friend Julie, and Those two mean a lot to me. And of course, Krista was still my friend. But, so after the Easter cantata, like in May, I realized that God was calling me to be somewhere else church-wise. And I had been in my church since 1997. So I've been there for a really long time. Like, every time I went away, that was where I came back to, like, and those people were all very important to me, and I wasn't upset with anyone, and I wasn't angry, and I wasn't hurt, and I wasn't, not getting fed or anything like that, but I just knew that God had someplace else that I needed to be placed, but I didn't know where. And so it took a little while, and on the first weekend of June, we went to our first service at Cornerstone, and I realized that was where God was calling me. Not long after I'd been there, went a few weeks, and I realized it. And in September, I started helping with the youth group, which was where I had really felt my calling, was to be in the youth group. And so I started helping with the youth group and being involved in things at the church. I guess I should also mention that in July I started a new job. A much better job. Not knocking any of my old jobs, but I'm just very happy with this job. I really have really great coworkers, and I have really great bosses, and I just like being there. But anyway, a side note, I needed to mention that because it's part of, if I hadn't been led to Cornerstone, I wouldn't have been led to my job. And it's simple as that. Like, I just don't think that it would have happened. But, so I have been helping with the youth. At the beginning of November, we went on a youth retreat, and that was really great. It was really awesome seeing God pour into the kids' lives and being used by God to do those, like, to help with that. I've started helping with a small group, and I've been really pressing into God to help me with my fear of public praying, because that's something that I had developed in that time when I was away from God, and to help me to help heal that hurt from my dad not being healed when I prayed, and God's been working on me in that. But that's really all I have to share right now. Also, I guess I should mention that I have been prayed for, and I have prayed for myself for healing with my depression and anxiety. And though I still have days that I have ups and downs with those things, it's not as bad as it was. I don't nearly struggle as often as I had been struggling, and I, for the most part, I'm at a functional level. Like, it doesn't take my ability to be, to work or to do things. Like, I'm not hurting like I was. But that's really it. I guess if there's something that I can pray for you guys for, leave it in the comments or message me, because I'm going to share this on my Facebook and stuff. But I like to pray. I would love to pray for you. And if you know me in person, or if you don't, and you live near me, I wouldn't mind getting together to pray with you, or praying for you on the phone or whatever, because I do want to do those things. But thank you for watching, and have a great day.